All right, today on the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast, we go over legacy and opt-outs and all this bowl game stuff over and over, and we talk about where Matt Corral fits on the pantheon of Ole Miss football quarterbacks. We also talk about today's bowl games and the lines thereof. Stick around. This is the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis. I want to tell you right now, today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. Also, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including soon-to-be YouTube. But until the YouTube is up, you can catch it right here on the Y'all's Conference Network YouTube page. So thank you for tuning in to that. So I want to get into legacy today, and specifically Matt Corral's legacy. Looking back, if Ole Miss wins, they have a chance to win more games in a regular season than they ever have. And at a school with as storied of a tradition as Ole Miss, that number of wins is actually kind of important. So it's important to realize that and take that into account. Now, with the trends around college football, there's a lot of people that want to minimize bowls. It's my opinion that there's no difference between opening against Louisville and Atlanta and closing against Baylor and New Orleans. It's the same game. The only difference is, sorry about that. The only difference is the carrot that's down the road at the draft. You think you're going to get drafted. You might not get drafted. It's a completely, rare thing, and everybody wants to be at their best where they run their combine. It's absolutely silly. And Matt Corral is doing a fantastic job in leadership, in the way he is handling and going about business and all of this. Matt Corral, there was never a doubt that he was going to play. There was a bunch of people that assumed that he might opt out. He was never going to opt out. It doesn't fit him. And when we talk about legacy, that's important to realize, because Matt Corral, as far as leadership goes, is number one on sitting on the Mount Rushmore of Ole Miss football. Number one is not a close second. Now, I do not think he is the most important person for his team in the country. There's others that are more important to him than him. That was proven by the last 6 games when the defense just stepped up and they were able to win those games. He is not the most important. And that is not me degrading Matt Corral. That's me just trying to be real about what's happening. Because so many people, when trying to build up somebody else, feels the need to tear down other players and other people. And they might not even be doing it intentionally. But Matt Corral is an elite quarterback. He is. He's an elite quarterback. He's the first or second best quarterback in the SEC. Now, the other guy won the Heisman Trophy. Nothing you can do about that. Crazy important. Bryce Young, if he's not the quarterback at Alabama, they are not in the playoff right now. They are not SEC champions. That is because of him that they were able to do that. Because for whatever reason, whenever Steve Sarkisian and Bill O'Brien went, the players that Steve Sarkisian recruited didn't fit Bill O'Brien's scheme. So even though Alabama has 5 stars everywhere, they're not the right 5 stars. They're good, they're talented, but they're not what they would have been last year if Sark was still the guy. It's just something like that. Now, I think that there's a chance, because of that, Cincinnati has a chance against them in the playoff. I don't think they will. It's not a good chance. But if Bryce Young plays poorly, they have a chance to sneak up and get him, because that's how important Bryce Young is for that team. No Jameson Williams in that game, no John Mechie. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well. But anyway, I digress. I started talking about that a little bit. But we're talking about legacy and opt-outs and bowls and things like that, and where Matt Corral actually sits in the Ole Miss pantheon. And we're going to get into the second segment in a little bit. and kind of do a top 4 and where Matt Corral would fit in that top 4 depending on Saturday night is pretty interesting. Because I think leadership alone, Matt Corral is clinched 4. He clinched number 4. And that probably bumped Bo Wallace out of the conversation. Sorry, Bo. But he's got that clinched. And we'll go over what's going on and how this game can affect him moving forward. Because this does affect him. People don't realize when it comes to these opt-outs, it's creating a mercenary type environment. There's not somebody that's going to be completely beloved that opts out of a bowl game. It's not somebody that's going to be completely remembered that opts out of a bowl game. It affects your legacy. It affects your relationship with the fans. You are quitting on your team before the final game is played. That is reality. We're not even talking about the draft and what's going on and what selfish reasons you might have to do that. We're talking about just in genuine, where all of these people are fans, not of you, of some institution that you're a part of. So if you quit on a game, they're going to just forget about you. They're going to put you in the opt-out, the quitter pile, the whatever's going on, and you're not going to get the due recognition that you think you deserve. It just is what it is. Now, Matt Corral playing in this game has a chance. If Matt Corral would have opted out of this game, wouldn't even have been in the top 4. They'd been below Chad Kelly and Bo Wallace, and I mean, he would be down there with Romero Miller and Russ Showles and people like that. That is where Matt Corral's legacy would have been if he would have opted out of this game. Because everybody likes Luke Altmaier, but Ole Miss has won 10 games in the season after the bowl game several times. It's nothing new. It's nothing special. It is what it is. Now, it's important to realize that this resurgence that Ole Miss has been on started pretty much in the mid-90s. Whenever Ole Miss went on probation and hired Tommy Tuberville is when this growth started. They got rid of the flag in the 90s. That helped with recruiting. Then the bowl run started. I think starting with the Motor City Bowl. Ole Miss would have went to a bowl game every year until the Cotton Bowl. The one year they didn't, they went 7-4, and the Independence Bowl took a 6-5 Alabama. It's a different bowl time back then, kids. It was a different bowl time. And even that, talk to your grandpas about what the bowl situation was like in the 70s and 60s. Talk about that too. So as all of this has grown, it's all grown. As it reached a critical mass, it started with 5 or 6 bowl games and then went to 10 or 12, and now there's 30 or 40. And they do decrease in value. If you're 6-6 playing another 6-6 team in the guaranteed rate bowl or whatever that is called, it's not going to mean as much as playing in the Sugar Bowl. Honestly, Mississippi State playing in the Liberty Bowl means more than playing in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl or the Cheeses Bowl or something like that, the Arizona Bowl. The Liberty Bowl means more than that because of the tradition. I think it goes back to the 50s. So there's less of a chance that you would even opt out of something like that, even though Charles Cross did for the draft. Everybody's scared to death of playing a football game before the draft and getting hurt in that game. Even though you've played, in some cases, 45 games. Even though you've played like 45 games, this one game, is going to get you. And maybe you get hurt. Maybe it costs you some money. Maybe not playing in the bowl game costs you money. I think not playing in the bowl game is a major red flag. Now, Christian McCaffrey opted out of his bowl game, and that proved to be a smart move on his part because he appears to be made out of glass. So, opting out of a bowl game in fear of injury kind of shows where you're coming from. It's a red flag to organizations. especially in this day of NIL and the Austin ruling and everything else going on, opting out is kind of a red flag. If you are willing to quit on your team, if you do it once, you'll do it again. And in doing so, it's going to be a thing. But we're going to talk about Matt Corral's legacy after this and where he fits on the, I guess, I hate doing Mount Rushmores, but the Mount Rushmore of Ole Miss college quarterback. Stick around. All right, we are back real quick. Do want to tell you thank you again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Make sure to check out the Ultimate College Football Preview 2021, local experts, betting advice, and draft analysis. The most comprehensive college football preview begins now. It's on now. You can check it out whenever you want to. It's pretty cool. So do that. So we're talking about legacy, and we're talking specifically about Matt Corral's legacy now. The Pantheon in Ole Miss football, and this is my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it might alternate number 1 and number 2. But there is a number 1 and number 2 at this point in Ole Miss football. Okay? To me, number 1 is Eli Manning. He's the greatest player that ever played at this university and really led Ole Miss from the disaster that was Peyton getting away. He was able to save them by the time he graduated. By getting to the Cotton Bowl. It was kind of a turnaround. Even though the Ed Orgeron era started, but it was kind of a turnaround. We played Oklahoma State in 2003. In 2009, Oklahoma State would be again on the menu in the Cotton Bowl. And then another Cotton Bowl. And it precluded the Sugar Bowl, and now we're back in the Sugar Bowl twice. Eli Manning started all of that. He got us back where we needed to be. That 7-1 SEC season in 2003. While I was living in Italy, by the way. So whenever Ole Miss played Auburn, it was a 2:30 game. But I'm sitting here watching that game after midnight because of where I live. So that was kind of neat. But the LSU game, those things... Ole Miss was good, thank goodness, because it was on AFN every Saturday, and that helped me out because that would have been a hard thing. That's when we used to have to go to a website called broadcast.com and find the radio broadcast of our team. So in a place like Italy, it was difficult, and we're operating on like 56Ks and ISDNs and things like that in Italy, but hey. We got it through, and Ole Miss was able to go. But number 1 is Eli Manning. Number 2 is Archie Manning. Archie Manning's number 2 because of everything he meant to the state. If you look at his stats weren't great. I mean, what he could do, he was drafted like 1st or 2nd in the NFL draft. But he's number 2. Number 3 is where it gets interesting to me, going into this Sugar Bowl. Number 3 is Chad Kelly. Chad Kelly is a Sugar Bowl winner. He deserves to be there. He has the best total offense season of any quarterback that's played at Ole Miss, and that includes Matt Corral. And also number 4 is Bo Wallace. So going into this game, that's the top 4. That's the Mount Rushmore. Now, I expect that Matt is going to play really well and win this game. And just winning this game cements him as number 3. He can get as high as probably number 3 to where he gets on the Mount Rushmore by winning this game. He wins 11. He wins the Sugar Bowl. Funny thing is Eli never won a Sugar Bowl, but I mean, Chad, Archie, and Matt would have at that point. And that's what the Mount Rushmore would be like of college football at Ole Miss. Now, if Matt goes out and has a really, really special game, everybody's watching the whole thing. He runs for 75 yards, throws for 370, and has a game similar to Tulane. If everybody remembers the Tulane game this year. I mean, it seems like 6 years ago, but it was only a couple months back. If he has a game like that, he has a chance to get into the top 2. To make the top 2 a top 3 as far as that tier. How about that? That's probably a better way to put that. Instead of the top 2 being the top tier, it becomes the top 3. He might not pass Archie. He might not pass Eli. But he'll start to get mentioned in the same breath as those guys. He has a chance for 2 to be retired someday. That's the air that he's breathing. Now, if he has a normal average game, I don't know if he's going to pass Bo Wallace. I don't know. So this game means a ton for legacy, and bowl games often do mean a ton for legacy. Matt Corral is leadership. He's by far the greatest leader at quarterback in the history of this school. He leads. He's like Joe Burrow was in 2019 as far as his leadership. And if he wouldn't have got hurt this year, it could have been very special. But remember, in 1970, if Archie wouldn't have got hurt, it would have been a different situation as well. So getting hurt is part of football. I mean, it happens. It's happened twice out of our top 3. The one that was healthy and healthy all the way through is the one I consider to be the best of all time at Ole Miss. Now, I don't think that Matt Corral can catch Eli. I just don't. Maybe it's recency bias with the number and the jersey being retired. But I don't know if he's going to be able to get past. And in doing that, you know, can he pass Archie? I don't know. Numbers wise, he absolutely can. He's already passed Archie numbers wise, but Archie has the benefit of being so popular amongst the fan base because of what he did and how different he was and what he meant to the state coming out of, you know, the end of the 60s and what was going on. So it's all very interesting when you look at it like that. I think Matt can get as high as probably 3rd. He can get as low as not making it on the Mount Rushmore based on this Baylor game. This is actually a big game for legacy. This is not one that's absolutely solidified. Chad Kelly won the game, so Matt has to win the game to pass Chad. Bo did not get to the Sugar Bowl. That did not happen. The only thing he did against Tulane in the Superdome was get injured, and we all know about his shoulder. But a win, Matt should be able to pass him. So that would get him on there. A win and playing well, and he has a chance to get 3rd. I don't know if he can catch Archie and Eli. The more I talk through it, I just don't know if he can make it that high on the list. I don't think greatest of all time is an option for him based on the second half of the season. If the season would have stopped after Tulane, there was a chance. Honestly, Matt was the Heisman winner at that point. Everything's going on. But Matt getting hurt and other teams stepping up, you know, put a little bit of an arrow into that most important argument that you have. It wasn't the most important player. Ole Miss was still winning games. If he was as important as everybody was saying, Ole Miss would have ended up 7-5. Because Matt was not mobile moving forward. Leadership-wise, like I said, he did all of this stuff. He's probably the greatest leader in the history of Ole Miss football playing quarterback. Absolutely. He wasn't necessarily the most important player to a team. And whenever he is healthy and on, he is probably the most talented player in college football. That's one of the reasons I'm excited about this game, is you have him with all of his weapons all healthy. I want to see what that looks like again, because it's been a while. It's been since before that Tennessee game that I saw this. So I want to see what this looks like. Also, I want to see those fire uniforms. My goodness, I'm so looking forward to that. But let's see what that looks like. Let's see what we do. All right, when we come back, we are going to talk about the games that are on today. I think the games might be started right now, but I think it starts at noon. But we'll talk about that. Stick around. All right, BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for sports action all this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2021. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's talk about games. Let's talk about what's going on. We have an ad locator going on right there, so we're going to put that in there. So you might hear this commercial before this. But the Birmingham Bowl opened at Auburn -3. It is currently Auburn -1. This is a game that I honestly expect Houston to win. TJ Finley has not impressed me. The South Carolina game, even the Alabama game, they were so deficient offensively at that Alabama game. That'll be interesting to see. They were able to get Tank Bigsby back, but we'll see how it goes. In the First Responder Bowl, Air Force is favored. Just a second. I shut this down real quick for whatever reason. So sometimes on these things, I can't see who they're actually playing. So let's see. First Responder Bowl. Air Force is in. Oh, they play Louisville. Okay. So the Louisville Cardinals play. The Air Force is a 1-point favorite. 1.5 now. This opened at Air Force -1. This is a game that I just don't know. I expect Malik Cunningham to kind of show out a little bit. Ole Miss just got a transfer from Jalen Watkins. I'm interested to see if he plays in that game or not, or what the opt-out situation is. I know some of our opt-outs are playing in the Sugar Bowl. The transfer portal is not a death sentence for playing for your team. You can still play for your team. So it is what it is. The Holiday Bowl at Petco Park, that's where the Padres play because there is no Jack Murphy Stadium at the moment. NC State is currently a 2-point favorite. It opened at 2.5. They play against UCLA, so Chip Kelly and the boys are going to go down the road to San Diego and try to get a go. It's a Fox game, by the way. It is at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight. And, it might be kind of a fun game, but it's one of those games where NC State has to go all the way out to California. So UCLA has the advantage there. Mississippi State is favored by 10, opened at 8.5 over Texas Tech. This is a game that no matter what the line is, take Mississippi State. Absolutely. Texas Tech has just openly refused to pay Mike Leach $2.6 million. He's mentioned that in the press conference multiple times. This game is circled. This game, I bet you there is another gear that happens, and Will Rogers, I expect, is going to have a really good game. The interim coach for Texas Tech is Sonny Cumbie. If you don't know, that is one of Mike Leach's quarterbacks at Texas Tech. So it should be interesting to see. Like I said, I take Mississippi State. No matter what the points, take Mississippi State in this game because this is one of those it's personal type things. And the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Minnesota is a 5-point favorite over West Virginia. It opened at 6.5. It's down to 5. It's a game that I don't know. I mean, PJ Fleck rowing the boat. Who knows what's going to happen in this game? I know that he has kind of turned around that Golden Gophers program, and they are better than they should be, honestly. But these are the games that are out there right now. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Tomorrow we'll continue talking Sugar Bowl and other players maybe with legacy. a player like Sam Williams, that has the SAT record now, what is his legacy moving forward? I'm interested about. So we may talk about that tomorrow. But anyway, now make you the second listen, Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. That's from Paramount Sports. Is free and available on all platforms. Hey, everybody sit back, enjoy the bowl game. Bowl week is here in earnest. And you can catch all these games all day. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I do want to say thank you very much for watching today. And, of course, hotty toddy.